from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, March 12th. So today we have the moon in Leo energy in the void going into the Virgo energy at 3:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, at which time we are definitely being catapulted into this eclipse energy. Of course, we're building towards the full moon lunar eclipse taking place here on the 14th. And the minute that we kind of dip our toe into this Virgo energy, we are going to start feeling that craziness, that chaos, that confusion that eclipse energy brings. However, if we're just talking about the transition from a Leo moon to a Virgo moon, things get a little bit serious. First of all, we're moving out of a fire sign to an earth sign. So there's definitely a lot more presence that takes place because we have to become very aware of our physical body, of our physical circumstances. We have this earth energy being ruled over by Mercury. So there's a lot of thought processes going on right now. We're reassessing, reanalyzing. And with Venus being retrograde, of course, the major focus is revisiting, reanalyzing, reassessing our self-worth, our relationship dynamics, our happiness, our joy, our routines, our finances. But at the same time, because this eclipse energy is going to be highlighting in the Virgo energy, this is about getting our shit together. We got to get organized. Now, considering the fact that Virgo energy needs to focus on the problem in order to actually fix it, anytime that the moon shifts in Virgo, we spend the very first part of that transit really kind of overwhelmed with all the things that aren't going well. All the things that are creating discomfort in our lives, because of course we have to become aware of the problem in order to fix it, heal it, repair it. As we move through a Virgo transit, we kind of come to that halfway point where again, we start kind of realizing where adjustments and improvements need to be made. And by the time the moon is heading out of the Virgo energy and preparing to move into the Libra energy, that's when we start kind of implementing some of those changes, recognizing what bad habits we have to kick to the curb, where it is that, again, there are major changes and transformations that need to happen, first of all, in our head space, kind of wrapping our head around what needs to change, what needs to kind of improve. And then we get to implement those particular adjustments. And so again, where we have the full moon lunar eclipse taking place in this Virgo energy, everything is going to feel a little bit more heavier and weighted than it usually does. It's going to feel more problematic than it normally does. It's going to feel more, I'm going to say powerless, like we don't have control because again, we're in eclipse energy. The universe is in the driver's seat, not us. And so we're about to get sorted out in a way that we should have sorted ourselves out, that we didn't, that now we have to kind of, again, surrender. Big word here in Pisces season. Big word with the North Node in Pisces, surrender, trust that we are on the right path, trust that we don't need to have all the answers, that we don't need to know what kind of is waiting around the corner. Because when you have trust and faith and surrender to the process, you know that you're on an adventure and that you're going to be able to deal with whatever it is that is awaiting around that corner. And again, just kind of wrapping your head around mercurial rules. So we're wrapping our head around what needs to end and die in order for new beginnings to actually take place. So there's definitely a lot going on. Now, with that being said, we have 11 different aspects popping off here today. 9 of them are going to be involving the moon. And we have the annual Sun and Saturn conjunction taking place here. It happens every year when the Sun meets up with Mr. Karma himself. And so there's going to be a little bit of a heaviness, a weight to the day because we're getting reality checked. Again, just keep in mind that we have to kind of trigger and activate the darkest parts within us to rise to the surface of our awareness so that we can do something with it under this eclipse energy. We can wrap our head around it, come to a certain term of acceptance about it, really understand where it is that we have to get organized and create a little bit of order out of this emotional chaos. So while the moon is still in this void and still very much in the Leo energy, we are going to make a very uncomfortable interaction with Neptune in his rulership in this Pisces energy. And of course, this isn't going to feel good. It's not supposed to. This is where we're feeling overwhelmed. This is where we're overstimulated. This is where the options, the opportunities that we have to move on and move forward are kind of putting us in a state of paralysis. We are hypersensitive. We are, again, wanting to check out of reality, curl up in a little ball and just kind of sit this one out. But we can't do that because, of course, we need to make the changes. We need to operate in our wholeness. We have to operate in our creator abilities, do something in our physical realms to help close the door upon the chapters that we've outgrown and prepare the land, so to speak, for this new quest, this new adventure that we are getting prepared to go on, and really putting ourselves in a situation to take a lay of that land and see what we want to build, see what we want to create. And so we are kind of, at a tug of war at this particular juncture between our heart and our head, between our inner realm and our outer realm. And things are supposed to feel very overwhelming, very disorienting, and very confusing. So if you're feeling all of those things, then you are 100% in alignment. Now, that being said, we do shift into that Virgo energy at 3:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to feel the weight of that. An earth energy compared to a fire energy is very different. And so we are becoming very aware of our physical body, physical circumstances, and very aware of what isn't working. Now, Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, who rules over this Virgo energy. We have Mercury in his final days of being direct in this Aries energy. And Mercury is going to be semi-squaring, creating a little bit of tension and conflict with Uranus, the Great Awakener, who, of course, is in Taurus energy. So Uranus rules over the highest level of our intellect, while Mercury rules over the lower part of our intellect, meaning that Uranus connects us to the higher realms of intelligence where we receive downloads and insights. And Mercury kind of rules over the part that connects us to our ego avatar, very dependent on bringing in information and data and statistics from our physical realm. And from that, that's how we form thoughts, ideas, and opinions. And so if this was a positive aspect, we would have our higher mind and our lower mind working together, working in tandem to get on the same page, to rapidly process new insights, new downloads, and from that logically, practically coming up with a plan and a strategy on what we're going to do with that particular information. But of course, this isn't a great interaction. This is a tension and conflict filled interaction, which means that some of the insights that we're having, some of the futuristic ideas that we're having, they're not meshing well with our current circumstances. And again, Mercury being in this Aries energy, we have a tendency to want instant gratification. We have a tendency to act on impulse. We have a tendency to, in this fire energy, want to kind of burn through all of the things that aren't making us happy, feel safe, or secure. Of course, we have to resist that particular temptation right now because we are in eclipse season. So any kind of action that we're taking on impulse is definitely going to make more of a mess than there actually needs to be. And because Uranus is in this Taurus energy, kind of stuck in this fixed earth sign, if you will, we are becoming very aware of where it is that we're the problem, where it is that we're holding on to the old, where it is that we're resisting making the changes that we know that we need to make. And so this isn't going to feel good to our headspace, nor is it going to feel good to our central nervous system. If you need to take a listen to this week's Ascension forecast to remind yourself of where these Ascension symptoms are going to be popping up, I would definitely recommend you do that. And if you need a little bit more assistance, validation, confirmation of what it is that you're going through, please jump over to my Patreon, where we do a day-by-day play-by-play of the Ascension energies, how they manifest in the physical body, and what you can do to kind of turn that intensity down. Nonetheless, we have to be prepared for a major shift in our mood, in our perspective, in our thoughts, in our ideas that is coming out of banging our head against a wall. It is highlighting where it is that, again, there is part of us that is very focused on what we have power and control over in this present moment, in the here and now, which, spoiler alert, not very much, versus where it is that Uranus is trying to show us the long-term effects of our actions, or in some cases, our inactions. And so this is going to be a jolt to the system in order for us to see where it is that, again, tension and conflict, where it is that we're exhausted of dealing with the same old, where it is that if we continue to think the same way, if we continue to act the same way, we're only going to get the same results in which we've already got, that we've already deemed are not good enough for what it is that we want to build, what it is that we want to create. So that in itself is a pretty heavy energy. And then at 6:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the sun in Pisces energy comes up to, bumps into, teams up with, conjuncts Saturn, the Lord of Karma, in Pisces energy. So again, this is our annual conjunction between these two. And a conjunction is just as much of an ending as it is beginning. And of course, we are in the particular degrees of Pisces season right now where we're starting to lean into the healing, the transformation, the, let's call it inspiration, the motivation, all of the good parts. However, Mr. Saturn does have a tendency to give us a little bit of a reality check. He does kind of, poke holes in our dreams in order for us to come back down to earth. And what I will say is that the sun and Saturn coming together is definitely going to call us out on our bullshit, and we need to get our shit together. And so it is a pressurized time for us to realize that, first of all, we have to get a plan into play. And if you do have a plan, you're probably going to want to revisit it and revise it to a certain extent. We need to start creating order amongst this chaos. And at this particular juncture, there's a lot of old being wrapped up. There's a lot of old chapters, old karma, old projects, old relationships, old versions of self, old ways of doing things that they're just not working for us anymore. And so we have to become very aware of where it is that we're still pouring into the old, even though we're not resonating with it, to kind of do what needs to be done to wrap this thing up so that we can start investing our time, our energy, our attention into building something new. And so this is us realizing that there is a want, need, and desire to shift our time, energy, and attention, that there is a particular, let's call it project, goal, vision, dream that we would like to start building and manifesting. And that requires us to, again, draw a line between what needs to end and die versus what we need to bring to life, what we have to build, what we have to create. And so this is a realization also that we need more than just hopes, wishes, and dreams, okay? You actually have to take action. You actually have to engage the physical body to do the hard things in order to align with what it is that you're passionate about, what it is that those hopes, wishes, and dreams actually are. And so we are definitely going to feel emotionally drained. That's just a part and parcel of this particular aspect, not to mention that, again, we're in eclipse season and, again, we're in retrograde season as well. But at this particular juncture, we just need to kind of sit on the bench. We need to rest. And as we're resting, we need to observe where it is that we need to get our shit together, where it is that we need to either recommit ourselves to the old projects, old goals that we want to breathe new life into, or cut them off and start kind of, planning of what we're going to put our time, energy, and attention into. And so this is going to be a little bit of a confidence shakeup, a little bit of an energetic shakeup, a little bit of a faith shakeup, because the structure, again, Saturn rules over structure, the structure and order of our lives are more attached to the old version of self than this current version of self. And so we got to get on track. And this is just a little bit of a bitch slap from the universe, a little bit of a reality check, if you will, to kind of shake your head, get a grip, and realize that we need to do more than just sit back and have a hope and a prayer. We actually have to back it with action. It's going to require a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability. And of course, we're in Pisces season, the escape artist who wants nothing to do with any of that. So the push and pull, the ebb and flow is definitely going to be very tension filled here today, especially with that aspect kind of playing in the background. We do move into some more positive energies, though. We have the moon in this Virgo energy now, making a positive interaction, first with Venus, who is retrograde in Aries energy, and then second with Mercury, who is in Aries energy, awaiting to go retrograde just 24 hours after this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo pops off. And so, first of all, the interaction with Venus being retrograde in that Aries energy, well, again, the moon in Virgo needs to focus on what isn't working, what is the problem. Venus being retrograde in Aries energy is reanalyzing and reassessing her heart space, what she cares about, who she cares about, what she wants to build, what she wants to create, and addressing this self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence issues that are kind of hindering her from going after what it is that she wants. There is a major review of relationship dynamics, the power that we either keep to ourselves or give away in relationship dynamics. And there's a restructuring going on, a reanalyzation of our resources, of our finances as well, because all of that is tied into the way that we feel about ourselves. And so emotionally speaking, we are going to gain a little bit of clarity on what we want, what we need, what we desire, where our self-worth is concerned, where our day-to-day lives are concerned, relationships, money matters are concerned. We're going to figure out what it is that we want through realizing what it is that we don't want. An hour later, we have the moon interacting with Mercury in this Aries energy. And of course, Mercury rules over the Virgo energy that the moon is now in, and our heart space being the moon and Mercury being our head space. They're trying to get on the same page. But in order to get there, again, the moon in Virgo needs to analyze where it is that we're not feeling so good, feeling so hot about doing the same old thing and getting the same result. Mercury, on the other hand, in Aries energy is hot to trot. We're all full of fire and spice. Now, that is a good thing because it keeps us focused on what we can build and create moving on and moving forward. It gives us a goal. However, it also kind of stirs restlessness, it stirs frustration, it stirs the ants in our pants, it stirs impulse, and we have to resist impulse at all costs because, again, we're going to make a mess of things. And so our heart and our head are trying to get on the same page. We're going to gain a visual, gain some clarity on what we want to be projecting ourselves and making progress towards. But again, a lot of these realizations are coming out of realizing what we no longer want to pour into, what we no longer think, what we no longer want to be focused on. There is a major amount of clarity coming out of realizing what we're done with. So the moon in Virgo is then going to make a very uncomfortable and awkward interaction with Pluto, the great transformer, who is in Aquarius energy. We, typically speaking, love when Pluto and Virgo energy interact because Pluto does a deep dive in the psyche and the Virgo energy does a deep dive in the, I'm going to say, lower levels of intellect. And whatever it is that we can uncover deep in the psyche where egoic programming is concerned, fears, doubts, and insecurities are concerned, we're able to flip the script and rewrite it in a much better way through the Virgo energy. However, again, this is not the greatest interaction, which means that we are going to fall into a very dark pit of self-criticism, self-judgment, nitpicking, kind of beating ourselves up, breaking ourselves down. And this, although it's not supposed to feel good, it is going to kind of illuminate where it is that there's still some bad seeds in our brains, in our psyche, in our inner dialogue, in our inner narrative. And when we realize it, because again, the whole point of moon being in Virgo is to analyze the problem in order to fix it, we have to become very aware of where it is that we're having this power struggle within ourselves, where it is that we want to end up. Because again, Aquarius energy that Pluto's in is trying to show us the visual of where it is that we would like to end up. But coming back into this present moment, there's a whole list of things that are blocking us from actually getting there. And a lot of it is the way that we think, the way that we see things, the way that we speak about ourselves. And again, a major rewriting of the script is needed in our inner dialogue, in our inner narrative, in order for us to boss up, have power and control over some of these egoic programmings that, of course, keeping us in a state of fear, in a state of paralysis. So does it feel good? No, it's not supposed to. Are we going to learn a lot? Yes, we are. Are we going to be able to do something about it? For sure. This is exactly where it is that we need to be in anticipation for, again, this lunar eclipse coming at us, and we get to release and purge and eliminate a lot of these darker parts. The moon is then going to semi-square, again, a tension-filled particular aspect, this time with Mars. So Mars being the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger. He's still in Cancer energy. My goodness. He doesn't enjoy being there. He has a lot of time, energy, and attention being focused on defending and protecting what it is that we've already built and created, what it is that means the most to us. But at the same time, there is an element where he is ready to take action and make moves to cut the cords, the attachments to the past with things that are no longer serving us. And so this is about us managing our energy, understanding where the emotional, intuitive drive to take action and make moves are actually coming up within us. Again, we have to resist it a little bit. At this particular juncture, we will get free reign to take action and make moves here in a couple of, I want to say weeks, but technically months. But at this particular juncture, the moon in this Virgo energy is highlighting where it is that we do have ants in our pants, where we are frustrated, where we are in defense mode, where we are resisting, kind of detaching from people, places, and things of the past that, again, are no longer supporting our emotional safety, security, and stability. So this is going to ruffle some feathers. This isn't going to feel good. It is not supposed to. And then this takes place at 10:53 a.m. We sit in that energy until 4 p.m. At 4 p.m., we have the moon in Virgo making a very uncomfortable interaction to Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries energy. So again, may I remind you that as we get closer and closer to this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo event, that we have to have all the triggers and activations ruffle our feathers, make us uncomfortable, so that the darker parts of us are rising to the surface of our awareness so that we can see it face on, head on, so that we have the choice of whether or not we're going to allow that particular part of self to remain live and well within us and self-sabotage all the good in which we're trying to do, or we're going to take power and control. We're going to do something. We're going to flip the script. We're going to release those energies. We're going to boss up. We're going to just kind of see where it is that we can override this particular ego programming system. Now, the moon and Chiron coming together in this tension-filled, awkward interaction means that we're focused more on the wounds than we are on our ability to heal them. Again, we're just at the beginning stages of this moon and Virgo transit where we're focused on the problems. Now, we are going to beat ourselves up and break ourselves down in a very, very intense kind of way. It needs to happen. Most of this is because we're tapping into the old version of self. The old fears, doubts, and insecurities of the old version of self are very alive and well at this particular moment because these eclipse energies remove that particular fragmented energy and help us anchor in this new version of self that we've been working on. We are not in the mood to see where growing and healing can take place. We are very, very immersed in the not so nice moods and attitude, the not so nice narratives, the not so nice feelings. And so again, we have to kind of look at it like we have been, watching these wounds heal. And just as the scab is being prepared to kind of naturally fall off on its own, we rip those scabs off and make that wound be wide open once again. And sometimes we need to rip those scabs off. We need to reopen those wounds in order for them to heal in a much better way. So let's take this opportunity to look at this particular day and these interactions and this energy from that perspective, because, sometimes you have to reset the wound or reset the injury, become very aware of it, realize that we could do a better job in healing that particular wound. And this is where the realization kicks in. So then the moon in Virgo goes ahead and makes a very uncomfortable interaction with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who of course is retrograde in Aries energy. So we're having a very hard time right now, mentally and emotionally speaking, because Venus in her retrograde is a whole vibe all in itself. She's in the darkness. She's in the underworld. She's beating herself up and breaking herself down as she reviews and kind of reanalyzes and reassesses how it is that she's gotten here. Meaning the self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence that she's had along the way, where it is that she's given that power away to people, places, and things that she's chosen to kind of align herself with, where it is that there's a major pivot going on in her heart space. She is no longer attached to people, places, and things that she was once very attached to. Realizing that we're going to have to be the bad guy in somebody else's story in order for us to do what is right for us. That is breaking our own damn hearts right now. And so the moon in Virgo, who is highly critical, highly judgmental, especially of oneself, and then Venus beating herself up and breaking herself down, we are definitely going to be having these heart activations. Again, there's an Ascension forecast that you can go listen to. Remind yourself that you're not cray-cray. There is a whole community over on Patreon with a day-by-day, play-by-play with the Ascension symptoms and what to do about it. You should not feel cray-cray. You should not feel alone. We knew that these energies were coming at us. We knew that they were coming in hot this week. We are definitely going to feel it in our heart space. The moon then makes a positive interaction, thank goodness for that, with Pluto, my goodness, here we go. So we've had the majority of the day to unravel. We've had the majority of the day to beat ourselves up, break ourselves down. We've had the majority of the day to really focus on what the wounds are and where the problems are at. And we finally have a boss up energy bringing us out of that particular perspective, out of that narrative, out of that mood, out of that attitude. Now, we love when Pluto and Virgo energy work together because there is an aha moment. There is this realization that, guess what? We're doing this to our own damn selves. We are tunnel visioning ourselves into this old version of self, and we've done too much healing to this version of self to go back to who it is that we had to be. And so Pluto is here to say, okay, you can boss up, you can have some power, you can have some control, especially over your mind space, because Lord Jesus knows that's where you're having the most problems right now. We have to get a grip on our mental plane. Secondary to that, we have to get a grip on our emotions. This is us kind of, seeing ourselves in the realest, rawest, most vulnerable form. We are seeing our ego selves just keep us in this dark hole, this dark pit, if you will. And we're deciding at this particular juncture that, guess what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to crawl out of this dark pit. Because guess what? There is a light outside of this dark pit. And it is definitely a lot brighter, a lot lighter, a lot more fun, a lot more kind to be out of this dark pit. So we start climbing. That being said, Pluto does reveal hidden insights, hidden details. And for the most part, it is us moving out of our egoic programming, understanding from the higher version of self that these narratives, this belief system is a construct that was infused in us in the first 7 years of our lives, and that the unconscious, unprogrammed part of us have been repeating these same belief systems, the same inner dialogue, the same inner narrative, our whole adult lives. And once you become aware of it, then you can flip the script upon it. And this is exactly what we're given the opportunity to do with Pluto and the moon interacting in this way. So the last thing that we have going on here today, and yes, it's been a very long day, the moon is going to make a very harsh interaction with Mercury. So Mercury rules over the Virgo energy that the moon is in. Mercury is in his final days of being direct in this Aries energy. He's a little bit feisty, a little bit fiery. He has no patience. He has no want, need, or desire to look back when, realistically speaking, we're in a reflection phase. So there's already that particular, tug of war going on within us. Our heart space is the moon. Our head space is Mercury. And now they're not on the same page at all. Why? Well, because we just had this epiphany between the moon and Pluto. We just had this epiphany that, guess what? You're the problem. Guess what? You're choosing this negative ass narrative. You're choosing to stay in a perspective that you've been sitting in for God knows how long. You're choosing to do this. You have the option. You have the opportunity to choose differently. And for whatever reason, it is you choosing the darkness, choosing to beat yourself up, to break yourself down. Mercury wants to basically just move on and move forward, but we can't do that if we don't wrap up the cycle of karma, the cycle of trauma, the cycle of experience that has allowed this negative ass narrative to live alive and well within us. Okay, so if we push on right now and take action and make moves to rebuild our lives and to bring something new to life, we are going to ruin it, because the self-sabotaging behaviors that we have not addressed as of yet are going to come back, kick us in the ass, and totally destroy what it is that we're actually able to build. We have to do the work. We have to do the work. We have to recognize where it is that there's some programming still alive and well within us that is setting out to ruin all of the good things, because that's just how the ego programming actually works. And we have to become aware of it. And it's not enough to become aware of it. We have to choose. We have to decide that we no longer want to sit in it. We have to create new neural pathways. We have to redesign the whole way that we look at life, that we talk to ourselves, that we analyze things, that we come up with thoughts and ideas. We have to flip the script. And so although this doesn't feel good, it's not supposed to. Although this is putting us in a situation where, again, it's been a very tough emotional and mental day, it is putting us in a perspective to realize where one part of us, our headspace, is thinking too far off into the future. Well, realistically speaking, our emotions are too stuck in the past. And the great thing about this is that we aren't trying to push ourselves into the future, and we're not trying to push ourselves in the past. We're trying to bring those two parts together in this present moment, get them in alignment, get them on the same page, get them working together so that we can release a lot of the energies that are keeping us attached to the past, and that we can operate in our wholeness to activate those creator abilities and start building something beautiful for our future self.